Hey everyone, Mohammed here, and I wanted to show you a preview of this guide that I'm working on, which is building high-quality custom GPT. I've been working on this for a while. I built multiple GPTs for myself. I put some in public, and I felt that it would be helpful for you folks to see how I'm iterating on this. So the things that you're going to get in this short video could be used immediately. It says here like custom versions of ChatGPT. Basically, you're using prompt engineering, adding some information, connecting it with tools, and possibly API endpoints to customize your ChatGPT. Now, some of these are public, a lot are private. And the lessons that I'm going to share here are some from the public ones that I built, private ones I built, as well as reverse engineering a couple of GPTs out there. Okay, so what is a high-quality GPT? I put into two categories here for evaluation, which is on precision and accuracy. On precision, you have things about consistency, how specific it is, and how concise. And then on accuracy, you're talking about how relevant it is and how factual. So you may have your GPT would produce something factual, but it's completely not relevant to the query of the user, and if it's up to date. Now, these measures that I put in would work also for creative GPTs, as well as the ones where like helping you for making decisions and things like that. So the journey of you come up with one use case or a few use cases, you write your first prompt, and then the prompt gives you some okay results, right? And then you iterate on that prompt, right? Sometimes you have no performance, low performance, high performance, a little bit less, and then suddenly in the second use case, it fails completely. So you start working on your prompt 2.0. And sometimes when you're working with 2.0, now you get more and more scenarios you want to test. First thought is bad. Then you got better at accounting for scenarios 1 and 2. For 3, it's not totally bad. And then getting better and better and better. Then suddenly you get this message from ChatGPT, you've reached the limit and you need to wait for a few hours to continue. Now that kind of sucks. And the whole idea of building and iterating is core to as a product manager or as an engineer as well. And this like kills productivity. Once you bypass that step, you're able to improve and then finally get the GPT that you like. I like to graph this on this quadrant. What I've been realizing in my first version, in my 1.0 prompt, I get a little bit, you start with a higher precision, lower accuracy, so it'll go up a little bit of accuracy, and then it go down in precision. In the 2.0, you do a little bit better, then you do, I kind of like try to keep this in mind as that I'm working on this. And by the way, 2.1 could be okay, because that's your intent. All right. So let's talk about the limits so you can improve your productivity. So here are the limits. And I'm focusing on pro users here because that's the minimal tier that allows you to create custom GPTs. But you could also have teams. You could also have an enterprise account. You could technically think of teams almost doubling the amount for the number for your rate limits. Now, OpenAI limits the number of messages you do over 3 hours. And these limits are important to be aware of. Now, some folks try to hack it by changing their IPs, going on VPN. Not all of them are pretty successful. So what does the limit actually mean? You're allowed 40 messages over a 3-hour period. If you start at 11:30, then it's over the 3 hours, starting from 11:30. It's not every 3 hours, it's starting from 11:30. Now, what's interesting is that custom GPT rate limits are actually lower in the GPT-4. It's about 25. Some people actually have been reporting about 20, which means that out of the 40 you're allocated, 25 of those are for custom GPTs. Now, let's not forget though, GPT 3.5, which is that says they're great for everyday tasks, has no limit. All right. With this in mind and having an iterative mindset, I've been spending my first phases on refining the prompt on 3.5. It does not have all the bells and whistles. It does not have internet access. It does not have a data analysis. It doesn't have DALI. You can't upload files there. It's limited. but I tried to refine the prompt there. And then from there, you start with GPT-4, not only the model is different, but you also have access to those tools. And all of these tools are included by default. You could still use the DALL-E GPT that OpenAI has put in the store, but I still recommend using the default option because you're going to be running your prompt against the the custom prompt that ChatGPT did. So I would always, even if you're building like a DALL-E based GPT or data analysis, don't build it on top of those when you're testing on GPT-4. Use the default GPT-4 that includes all the tools so you could do your testing. And here you could add your knowledge base. So if part of a GPT's function is to get files from the user, you could test it. And then the third phase, which has the most stringent limits, you test everything again. And then with the twist here is that you could do custom actions with APIs. For my GPT prompt, I keep it simple, but what I care about is the sections in it. I have a mission statement, I have instructions, resources. I put all of these in, you can call it like a prompt template. And I've played around with style over the last 6-7 months now. I like Anthropic's recommendations for their prompt library of using XML in their instructions. So they put a mission statement in XML tag, instructions, resources, examples, and all that. If you use XML, that would be the best. But you could also use Mark. Now, just really quick here, I'm not going to go through all the details here, but essentially, your mission statement talks about the who and what, instructions the how. You have to also tell them your instant of your G, what tools are available. Should it's expecting a file, things. All right. For your iterative testing, we're going to start with 3.5, and you should iterate on it. If it's not that precise, make sure it's on mission, like you give it the stated mission. Are you acting as a pirate, acting as board of directors in a Fortune 500 companies? Is it following instructions? You should iterate on those. What I would skip optimizing on is when it's not totally accurate. 3.5 is a good model, but it may not be as accurate due to the date range for the knowledge cutoff. It might be due to the depth of its evaluation of your question and its response. And if it's somewhat relevant, let's say use PM, it may think PM as post-meridian or product manager or project management. I would skip optimization a few things. If it's not totally accurate because the information is out of date or that the model is not strong in this topic. And if you do a couple of tests, you'll notice like you still can get the key knowledge nugget that you want to pass on to the user. For GPT-4, you want to optimize as much as possible. Keep on iterating. If it's not precise, if it's accurate, if it's not using the tools correctly, if you're telling it to generate graphs, if you're telling it to do certain things, you want to make sure that you spend the bulk of your testing here. Now, on the custom GPTs testing, you wouldn't want to repeat all the tests. You just know that you have about 25 within a 3-hour range. So imagine if you just finished testing, like you did with 15 different tests on GPT-4, you only have about roughly 10 left to test on your custom GPT. I would focus on the 2 green ones here, if it's using the tools correctly, and if it's using custom actions, if you have that scenario when you're using API endpoints. In fact, I would probably budget more time to test this. So there's a couple of advanced testing that I would do depending on your scenario for your GPT. Is it conversational? If your GPT it's not like a zero shot, you want to make it conversational, absolutely do that. You may want to make sure it's not easily hacked. There are a couple of ways of hacking GPT, so you want to do some testing on that. Another scenario you may have is voice chat. So I think it's really great if you could talk to your GPT, asking it questions and getting answers that are concise, that make sense. For example, to use it as simulating a conversation with a thought leader. You could be the host of a podcast, the thought leader could be on your GPT, and you could do a chat back and forth. Now, you want to test that also on mobile. There are also other scenarios where you want to make sure that your GPT could be chained with other GPTs. So for example, there's a CEO GPT that I was impressed with. You ask it questions, it answers you as a CEO. And I decided to build Board of Directors GPT. It was an idea that I had a while ago, but I wanted to find the use cases on chaining GPTs. So as the CEO, gave me interesting answers. And I mentioned my Board of Directors GPT, and now my Board of Directors GPT has responded back to the CEO GPT. And it was the first one, it was not perfect because my GPT had the critique was not powerful enough. And it could be the lack of my testing of the Board of Directors GPT. So I went and I optimized my Board of Directors GPT so it could respond properly to the COGPT and have a conversation in my window, which was very interesting. You could imagine the other cases that I could use for your testing. If you have questions, put them in the comments. Message me if you want to have any very specific things that you can't share publicly. I'll be glad to help.